My name is Alex. I'm 25 years old and work as an unremarkable project planner at a large corporation called Genesis Group. My life, much like my job, was neither good nor bad, just following a predictable routine. I earned a modest salary, drafted mediocre proposals, and my life's trajectory was so clear I could see all the way to my retirement at 60. However, this tranquil existence was completely shattered after my grandmother was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. The old woman had no other dying wishes. Her one single obsession was to see me, her most beloved eldest grandson, married and settled down before she closed her eyes for the last time. And so, over the next month, my mother forced me to go on no fewer than 20 blind dates. My dates ranged from elementary school teachers to bank tellers, from programmers to yoga instructors, a wide variety of women, but none of them caught my eye. It wasn't that my standards were too high. Rather, I knew that a marriage entered into simply to fulfill an obligation would be unfair to any innocent woman. Just as I was at my wit's end, even considering renting a girlfriend to take home, an unexpected person extended an olive branch. She was the CEO of our Genesis Group, Anya Petrova, a legendary woman who at the young age of 28 had secured her position at the helm of a company worth tens of billions. She was also universally known throughout the company as the Ice Queen Devil. On the day she sought me out, I was tearing my hair out because she had rejected one of my proposals for the 10th time. She summoned me to her top-floor office, a room so large you could play soccer in it, and handed me a file. I thought it was a letter of termination and my hands began to tremble, but when I looked closer, the title on the document read, Marriage Cooperation Agreement. I was completely stunned. Ms. President Petrova, what is this? Exactly what it looks like. Anya Petrova sat behind an enormous desk dressed in a sharply tailored white suit, her expression as cold as Antarctic ice. Her voice, like the rest of her, was devoid of any warmth. A contract. I need a husband in name only to deal with a business marriage arranged by my family, and you need a wife to fulfill your family's wish. I've had you investigated. You have a clean background, simple social connections, and your appearance. Most importantly, you don't seem like a troublesome person. Listening to her tone, as if she were evaluating an investment, I was momentarily at a loss for how to react. A fake marriage with my boss, a beautiful multi-billionaire CEO. This scenario was 10,000 times more surreal than any of the project proposals I'd ever written. Why me? I managed to force the words out. There are thousands of people in this company, countless talented young men. Why would you choose a minor clerk like me? Anya Petrova seemed to see right through my confusion. She said flatly, because you're ordinary enough. Ordinary means safe and controllable. I don't need a partner who can stand as my equal. I just need a compliant cooperator. You can review the terms of the agreement. She gestured toward the document. After the wedding, we will live together but sleep in separate rooms. We will not interfere in each other's private lives. We will play the part of a loving couple in front of our families and on any occasion that requires a performance. The term of this cooperation is provisionally set for 2 years. After 2 years, we part amicably. In return, I will pay you a sum large enough to ensure you are financially secure for the rest of your life. Furthermore, I will cover all of your grandmother's medical expenses. That last sentence struck my heart like a giant stone. My grandmother's illness required an extremely expensive imported targeted therapy drug, the cost of which was enough to wipe out my family's entire savings. I admit I was tempted. No, I had yielded in the face of reality. Things like love and marriage seemed so pale and insignificant. Fine, I heard my own voice say. I'll sign. A flicker of something I couldn't quite discern passed through Anya Petrova's eyes. Was it relief? Perhaps I was imagining it. She nodded. Very good. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 in the morning in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau. And just like that, I, Alex, in my 25th year, sold myself in the most absurd way imaginable. My wife was my boss, a multi-billionaire Ice Queen CEO. I thought it was just a fair, mutually beneficial transaction, but I never imagined that from the moment I signed my name, my life would be set on a completely new and unpredictable course. The next morning at 9 o'clock sharp, I arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Anya Petrova was already there. She wasn't wearing her usual formidable business suit that kept everyone at arm's length. Today, instead, she had on a simple white dress, her long hair draped casually over her shoulders. A pair of oversized sunglasses covered most of her face. Even so, her tall figure and cool, aloof aura still made her stand out from the crowd. My God, this woman is even more devastating without the suit. Those legs, they must be 1.2 meters long, right? I whistled silently to myself, but walked over with an impassive expression. CEO Petrova. She responded faintly, taking a household register and an ID card from her purse. Let's go in. The process of getting the certificate was over as quickly as a dream. No flowers, no rings, no blessings, just the businesslike questions from the staff and 2 red marriage certificates stamped with an official seal. Stepping out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, the sunlight was a bit glaring. I looked at the little red booklet in my hand, feeling how surreal it all was. Just like that, I was married. Get in the car. Anya Petrova's voice pulled me back from my daze. A black Bentley had stopped silently in front of us. The driver got out and respectfully opened the door for her. I slid into the car, feeling the soft leather seats and the comfortable, climate-controlled interior, once again profoundly aware that she and I were from 2 different worlds. Starting today, you'll move into Unit 10, Anya Petrova said without looking up, her eyes on the documents in her hand. That's my apartment. I've already had the housekeeper prepare your room. Okay, I nodded. Also, she paused, looking up, her beautiful phoenix eyes peering at me from behind the sunglasses. At the company, we are still superior and subordinate. Do not have any unnecessary interactions. I don't want our relationship to cause any gossip. Understood? And this is a supplementary clause to the agreement. She handed me a new document. It's about the details of how to act like a loving couple in front of family, including but not limited to remembering each other's birthdays, hobbies, allergies, and a version of the story of how we met and fell in love. I took it, and the corner of my mouth twitched as I looked at the detailed settings, which were comparable to a movie script. What a meticulous woman. She's so rigorous, even with a fake marriage. No wonder she's the she-devil. If this were a project proposal, it would definitely pass on the first draft. As I was silently complaining, I noticed Anya Petrova's body seemed to stiffen almost imperceptibly. Her hand holding the document also tightened slightly. Was I imagining things? The car drove smoothly, and soon we arrived at Serenity Heights. It was a top-tier luxury residential area in a prime downtown location, with tight security and lush greenery. Anya Petrova's apartment was on the top floor, a massive penthouse with 360-degree panoramic, floor-to-ceiling windows. The decor style was just like her, minimalist, cool, and full of a sophisticated yet inhumanly distant feeling. A well-dressed housekeeper, around 50 years old, was already waiting at the door. Miss, you're back. This must be Mr. Alex. Housekeeper Lee greeted me with a smile. Housekeeper Lee, this is Alex, Anya Petrova introduced. From now on, he will be living here. His room is in the East Wing. Please show him the way. Yes, Mississippi. I followed Housekeeper Lee to my new home. It was a spacious suite, larger than the entire apartment I used to rent. It was fully furnished with all the necessary appliances. Even a walk-in closet was filled with brand new clothes, all prepared in my size. The world of the rich is truly unimaginable. Even the props for a fake marriage are so thoroughly prepared. I put down my shabby suitcase, feeling like I had moved into a show home. That night, after showering and changing into new pajamas, I lay on the unfamiliar bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Anya Petrova's room was right next door. The thought that the she-devil who bossed me around at the company and terrified me was now sleeping less than 10 meters away from me was immensely stressful. Sigh, what kind of situation is this? Cohabiting with my own boss, and in a fake marriage at that. If I make a mistake at the company in the future, does that mean I won't even be able to come home? But then again, as cold as she is, there's no denying she's gorgeous. At the Civil Affairs Bureau earlier, the moment she took off her sunglasses, my heart skipped a beat. Her skin was as white as milk, without a single flaw, and that figure of hers, TSK, even a suit can't hide it. I wonder what kind of pajamas she wears in private. Could they be some kind of cutesy cartoon pajamas? Ha, no way. For someone like her, her pajamas must be silk, either black or white. As I was lost in my random thoughts, a sudden loud crash came from the room next door. It sounded like something had fallen off a table. I was startled and quickly sat up. CEO Petrova, are you all right? I asked tentatively through the wall. From next door, there was no response, only a dead silence. After that night, the way Anya Petrova looked at me became a little strange. It was no longer the purely scrutinizing and cold gaze of a superior to a subordinate. Instead, there was something else, something I couldn't describe, something extremely complex, as if she were looking at a walking, muttering lunatic. Especially during meetings, once the marketing director was in the middle of a passionate presentation detailing a promotional plan he was very proud of. I sat in the corner of the conference room, pretending to listen attentively while frantically ranting in my head. My God, is this plan for real? It's 2025, and they're still using tactics from a decade ago. Hire a few internet celebrities to post press releases, buy some fake accounts to boost comments. And you think you can move the market? Tossing this money into the water would at least make a splash. Why hasn't Anya Petrova interrupted him yet? She can't possibly think this plan is viable, can she? It's over. It's over. This woman may be beautiful, but her business acumen seems to be lacking. If the Genesis Group goes bankrupt under her leadership, will I still get my salary on time? Just as my internal rant was getting heated, Anya Petrova, sitting at the head of the table, suddenly slammed her pen down on the desk with a bang. The entire room fell silent instantly. Everyone looked at her with trepidation. On her perpetually icy face, a suspicious blush appeared. She took a deep breath, her gaze sweeping coldly over the marketing director. Director Miller. Her voice was even colder than usual. Did you prepare this plan so that all our competitors in the industry can come and laugh at our Genesis Group? Take it back and redo it immediately. The marketing director was stunned on the spot. He couldn't for the life of him understand how his plan, which everyone had praised, had suddenly provoked this she-devil. And I was just as baffled. Only I knew that the reasons she gave for rejecting the plan were exactly the same as my internal complaints. Could it be a coincidence? From that day on, I noticed that the coincidences of Anya Petrova eavesdropping on my complaints became more and more frequent. The moment I finished complaining in my head that the coffee beans in the break room weren't fresh, the very next day, all the coffee machines in the company were stocked with top-grade Blue Mountain coffee beans. The moment I finished ranting internally about the slow company network, that afternoon the entire IT department was mobilized to perform a full network upgrade. The moment I casually thought the eel rice at that Japanese restaurant downstairs seems pretty good, Anya Petrova said to me with a deadpan expression after work, "We're going to your place for dinner tonight for me to meet your grandmother. By the way, stop by that Japanese restaurant downstairs and get a takeout order of eel rice." I started to feel that something was not right. This she-devil, could she have actually planted a listening device on me? Or maybe she implanted a chip in my brain. The more I thought about it, the more creeped out I became. Until that weekend evening, as agreed, we went to my home for the first time in our roles as husband and wife to see my sick grandmother. Before we went, Anya Petrova had specially changed into a modest long dress, put on light makeup, and bought a large pile of expensive health supplements. When I saw her, I admit I was stunned by her beauty all over again. TSK, this woman is truly a natural-born clothes horse. In this dress, she doesn't look like a she-devil at all. She's clearly a well-read and well-mannered lady from a good family. My grandma will definitely adore her when she sees her. But she really spared no expense. All these bags, big and small, must have cost a fortune, right? Sigh, the world of the rich. I just wonder if she'll put on her icy face for my grandma too. As if sensing my concern, Anya Petrova suddenly spoke coldly after getting in the car. "You don't need to teach me how to act when I meet your grandmother." Huh? I wasn't planning on teaching you, I said with an innocent look. She gave a cold snort and ignored me, just turning her head to look out the window. But I saw that the tips of her ears had quietly turned red again. When we arrived at my place, my grandma was, as expected, overjoyed to see Anya Petrova. The old lady took Anya Petrova's hand, looking her over from head to toe, and kept murmuring, "Good, good. What a good girl. Our little Alex is so lucky." Anya Petrova, too, had shed her usual icy demeanor from the office. She smiled patiently, chatted with Grandma, peeled fruit for her, and even proactively linked her arm with mine, acting completely intimate. At that moment, looking at the gentle, slightly shy smile on her face, my heart actually felt a flicker of daze, as if we weren't acting, as if she were truly my wife. She's such a good actress. Oscar owes her a little golden statuette. If anyone from the company saw this, their jaws would drop to the floor, wouldn't they? But she's actually quite pretty when she smiles. Her eyes curve like crescent moons, much better than that scowl she wears all day. Just as I was thinking this, I suddenly felt a hand pinch my arm hard. I hissed, sucking in a sharp breath of cold air. Turning my head, I met Anya Petrova's phoenix eyes, which were filled with a warning and a mix of shame and anger. I was even more confused. What had I done to provoke her again? It wasn't until that evening, as we were leaving after settling Grandma down for the night, that Anya Petrova suddenly stopped in the hospital corridor. Alex, from now on, when you're with me, in your mind, could you please be a little quieter? She looked at me, her gaze exceedingly complex, her tone carrying a hint of helplessness and shyness that even she herself hadn't noticed. Huh? In my mind. What's wrong with my mind? I wasn't thinking anything. You? She seemed to be exasperated by me, her chest heaving violently, and a blush once again spreading across her stunningly beautiful face. She glared at me as if wanting to say something, but in the end, she said nothing at all. She just stomped her foot and, in her high heels, walked straight ahead without a backward glance. I watched her slender, somewhat furious and flustered back, scratching my head, utterly baffled. This woman was getting stranger and stranger. The first family rehearsal with Anya Petrova, despite some turbulence along the way, was undoubtedly a complete success. Grandma was incredibly pleased with this granddaughter-in-law of hers. Holding her hand, they chatted about everything from poetry and songs to the philosophy of life, and her spirits were much better than they had been the past few days. Even the doctor said that maintaining a good mood works wonders for her condition. On the way home, the atmosphere in the car was a bit subtle. Anya Petrova kept her head turned, gazing at the rapidly receding streetscape outside the window, not saying a word. But from my angle, I could clearly see that her fair neck and earlobes were tinged with a faint pink. She must be exhausted today, right? Having to act, and also deal with my grandma's wild questions. Sigh, this money isn't easy to earn. But to be fair, her gentle and attentive persona today was really convincing. If I didn't know her true nature was that of a she-devil, I might have actually believed it. Especially when she smiles, those two little dimples are quite cute. Not like at the office where she wears a long face all day as if everyone owes her a few million. Squeak. A sharp braking sound rang out, and the Bentley jolted violently. If it weren't for the seat belt, my head would have nearly slammed into the seat back in front of me. What's going on? I asked the driver, surprised. The driver looked equally innocent. Sir, I don't know either. Miss, she suddenly slammed on the brake. I then realized that Anya Petrova's foot at some point had pressed down on the auxiliary brake on the passenger side. CEO Petrova, I called out tentatively. She slowly turned her head. There was still no expression on her gorgeous face, but her eyes looked as if they were suppressing a volcano about to erupt. Alex, she looked at me, forcing the words out one by one through gritted teeth. If you spout one more word of nonsense in your mind, believe it or not, I will throw you out of this car. Me? I swear I absolutely did not say my inner complaints out loud. But how did she know? An extremely absurd yet utterly terrifying possibility surfaced in my mind for the first time. Could it be she can actually hear my thoughts? The moment the thought appeared, I found it laughable myself. This isn't a novel. It must be a coincidence. Yes, definitely a coincidence. She must be annoyed that my performance in front of her grandmother today wasn't good enough, and she's just using this as an excuse to lash out. I decided to test it. I looked at her, my face a mask of innocence and confusion, but in my mind, I began to frantically spam the bullet comments. Testing, my check, paging the Ice Queen. Please respond if you can hear me. Anya Petrova's body gave a sudden shudder. Whoa, a reaction. Let's try that again. Anya Petrova is a huge dummy. Anya Petrova is a huge dummy. Important things are said 3 times. Anya Petrova's fists were clenched so tight her knuckles were turning white. Haha, so it's true. She really can hear me. My God, this world is too surreal. What the hell? Did I marry a human mind reader? A walking behavioral analyzer? I'm screwed, I'm so screwed. Does this mean she heard all the things I cursed her for in my head? That I called her flat-chested? Said she had a foul temper? That no one would want her? Alex, Anya Petrova finally, unable to bear it any longer, let out a low growl, suppressing her extreme rage. Her breathtakingly beautiful face was flushed crimson, whether from anger or embarrassment, it was hard to tell. She glared at me, a look in her eyes that could eat me alive. But me, after confirming this earth-shattering fact, I was no longer afraid. In fact, I found it a little thrilling. So it turns out my daily inner monologues were basically a one-man stand-up show, and my audience consisted of one person and one person only, my iceberg wife in name only. Now that was just too interesting. CEO Petrova, I asked with feigned concern, are you all right? Why is your face so red? Do you have a fever? Oh ho, she's blushing. She looks much prettier when her face is red, but that chest of hers is heaving pretty hard. Looks like she's really pissed. Don't get so mad you break. Where else would I find another fake wife who's both beautiful and rich and willing to pay for my grandma's medical bills? You shut up. Anya Petrova practically spat out those two words through gritted teeth. She whipped her head around and said to the driver, drive. For the rest of the journey, the pressure in the car was so low it could practically crush a person. Anya Petrova kept her gaze fixed out the window, never once looking back at me, but her tense profile and the slight tremble of her shoulders betrayed her inner turmoil. As for me, I was like a child who had discovered a new toy, having the time of my life. I unleashed the full force of my 25 years of roasting skills, all inside my head. From her hairstyle to the shade of her lipstick, from the dress she wore today to the Patek Philippe watch on her wrist, from the company's strategic planning to the lunch menu in the cafeteria, my thoughts ran wild and unrestrained. I could clearly feel Anya Petrova beside me growing more and more rigid, her breathing becoming more and more rapid. I even saw her on several occasions on the verge of turning her head to roar at me, but in the end, she managed to hold it back. In that moment, I suddenly felt that being her contract husband wasn't such a bad deal after all. At the very least, I had found my own unique trick to break her composure anytime, anywhere. Ever since I discovered Anya Petrova's secret ability to read minds, our cohabitation has become exceptionally eventful. Especially at the company, I remain the same low-key, dull, and unremarkable junior planner, but only I knew that every day I was using my inner voice to conduct a full-scale, not blind spot harassment of my direct superior. At the Monday regular meeting, Anya Petrova, dressed in a black Gucci suit, sat ramrod straight, listening to the reports from various departments. This black widow get up again? Does she not own clothes in any other color? It does show off her figure, but her aura is just too intense. Nothing can grow within a 10-meter radius. Anya Petrova, seated at the head of the table, lifted her coffee cup, her hand giving a nearly imperceptible tremble. But these black stockings seem new. The texture is finer than the last pair. CEO Petrova, are you all right? All the executives in the room jumped, casting concerned glances her way. I'm fine. Anya Petrova waved her hand and shot a harsh glare in my direction, the warning in her eyes unmistakable. I lowered my head, pretending to take notes diligently, but inside I was already roaring with laughter. That'll teach you to put on that ice queen face for me. In the afternoon, the CFO was presenting the last quarter's financial report. This old fox is playing with numbers again. Classifying all research and development investment as sunk costs makes the profit margin look good, but anyone with eyes can see the company's core competitiveness is declining. There's no way Anya Petrova can't see this, right? If she can't see through this, I'll go buy 2 copies of Finance for Dummies tomorrow and secretly leave them in her office. Anya Petrova listened with a deadpan expression, but under the table, her fingers were secretly crushing a pen cap out of shape. After the CFO finished his report, she spoke faintly. Director Smith, this financial report you've prepared is very beautiful. She deliberately emphasized the word beautiful. However, what I want to see more is the truth. Before the end of the workday, I need a raw data report stripped of all financial wizardry. If you can't do it, we can find someone else for your position as director. Director Smith was stunned on the spot, and a cold sweat instantly soaked his shirt. As for me, I silently gave Anya Petrova a thumbs up in my mind. Not bad. Ice Devil, it seems power and flattery haven't gone to your head yet. That reaction was quick and professional. You've got a future, you've got a future. Anya Petrova's hand resting on the table unconsciously tightened into a fist again. And so, every day I found myself immersed in the thrill of this secret teasing, unable to pull myself away. I discovered that although Anya Petrova was growing colder to me on the surface, never calling on me in meetings and acting as if she didn't see me when we passed in the hallway, some of her behaviors were quietly changing. For example, the number of black pantsuits in her wardrobe gradually decreased, replaced by dresses of various colors that were just as professional but with a touch more softness. For example, she started to quit her habit of drinking iced coffee, and a delicate thermos filled with warm water appeared on her desk. Another example, one time I was viciously chewed out by my department head over a minor oversight. I was grumbling unhappily in my head. This old skinflint, he screws up his own decisions and then takes it out on us grunts. Anya Petrova doesn't even do anything about it. This company culture is rotten to the core. The next day, that same supervisor was transferred to a marginal department in the company, left to warm a bench. I knew all of this was because she had heard my inner voice. This discovery gave rise to a strange feeling within me. It was as if I were raising a very aloof and fierce cat. It never let me pet it, nor did it meow at me, but it would secretly, in places I couldn't see, carry away all the things I disliked. This feeling wasn't bad, it was even a little sweet. In the blink of an eye, more than a month of our contract marriage had passed. During this time, Anya Petrova's stomach problems flared up again. That night, I returned to the apartment after working overtime and found the living room lights off. I thought she wasn't back yet, and was about to head to my own room when I heard a suppressed, pained groan coming from the master bedroom. My heart clenched and, without a second thought for the propriety between men and women, I pushed open her bedroom door. The room was lit only by a dim bedside lamp. Anya Petrova, dressed in a white silk nightgown, was curled up on the bed, her body trembling slightly from the intense pain. Her face was as pale as a sheet of paper, her forehead covered in a fine sheen of cold sweat. CEO Petrova, what's wrong? I asked anxiously, rushing over to her. Stomachache. She squeezed the word out through gritted teeth, her voice so faint it was almost inaudible. This foolish woman. She must not have eaten properly at work again today. Just an iced Americano for lunch, and then out for drinks with clients tonight? Does she think her stomach is made of iron? She's going to kill herself. Furious and anxious, I immediately spun around, rushed to the living room, and started rummaging through cabinets and drawers, searching for medicine. Finally, in a drawer under the TV stand, I found stomach medicine and painkillers. I poured a glass of warm water, helped her sit up, and brought the pills to her lips. Here, take these. You'll feel better. She gave me a weak look and obediently took the medicine. Sigh, when she's sick, she's actually quite docile. Where did all that she-devil fierceness from usual go? She looks kind of pitiful. Her face is so pale, completely drained of color. Her lips are chapped too. This woman really doesn't know how to take care of herself. Looking at her weak state, a thread of pity I couldn't explain bloomed in my heart. I reached out and touched her forehead. It was ice cold to the touch. No, medicine alone won't be enough. You must not have eaten all day. You need something hot to eat. With that, I stood up. You wait here. I'll go make you some congee. After saying that, I walked into the kitchen. The truth is, I'm not much of a cook, but at a time like this, I could only bite the bullet and try. I opened the refrigerator. Inside, apart from a few bottles of mineral water and some yogurt, it was completely empty. All right, so this woman really does live on air, not a trace of the earthly about her. Luckily, there were some spare rice and dried goods in the cupboard. I washed the rice, boiled some water, and chopped up some shiitake mushrooms and dried scallops to add in. I stood by the stove, letting it simmer slowly. An hour later, a pot of fragrant seafood congee was finally ready. I ladled out a bowl and carefully carried it into the room. She was still leaning against the headboard. Her complexion was a little better than before, but she was still very weak. Here, have some congee, it'll warm your stomach. I scooped up a spoonful, blew on it, and brought it to her lips. She looked at me, her eyes filled with complex emotions. There was surprise, gratitude, and a hint of dependence that she herself hadn't even noticed. She didn't speak, just silently opened her mouth. I fed her one spoonful at a time. The room was very quiet. There was only the sound of our soft breathing. The atmosphere was a little delicate. What a rare opportunity to get to serve this Ice Queen CEO. If anyone from the company saw this, their jaws would hit the floor. Still, she looks pretty docile when she's eating quietly. Her eyelashes are so long, like two little brushes. She's just too thin. She needs to eat more. This woman, she probably avoids eating anything just to maintain her figure. Honestly, health is more important than anything. As I was grumbling inwardly, I suddenly noticed that Anya Petrova's face had turned red again. She stopped eating, lowered her head, and said in a small voice, I could do it myself. No, I refused without a second thought. You're a patient right now, don't move. Are you kidding? This is a perfect chance to show off. How could I let you ruin it? I have to let you know that I, Alex, am a caring, one-o-facant, amazing man. I continued to feed her, persistent. She didn't refuse again, only buried her head even lower. The blush spread from her cheeks all the way to her snow-white neck. The bowl of congee was soon empty. Her complexion also improved visibly. Do you want more? I asked. She shook her head gently. Then lie down and get some proper rest. I helped her pull up the covers and tucked in the corners of the blanket. Just as I was about to get up and leave, she suddenly reached out and gently tugged on the corner of my shirt. Her grip was so light I could barely feel it. Thank you. She looked at me, her voice as faint as a whisper in a dream. I froze. This was the first time she had ever said thank you to me so sincerely. It was also the first time I'd seen a trace of an emotion called warmth in her cold, phoenix-like eyes. At that moment, for no reason at all, my heart skipped a beat. Why, you're welcome, I answered, a little flustered in my mind. Anya Petrova's stomach ailment quickly healed under my meticulous care. Our relationship also underwent a subtle change because of the kindness of a bowl of congee that night. The way she looked at me was no longer so cold. Although at the company, she was still her usual all-business self. Back in the apartment, she would occasionally initiate a brief conversation with me. For example, are you coming back for dinner tonight? Or, I think the light in your room is broken. And I in turn gradually got used to my daily real-time internal commentary directed at her. I even felt it had become our own unique way of communicating. Until the appearance of Mark Harrison shattered this fragile peace. Mark Harrison was the crown prince of the Sterling Group. The Sterling Group was a longtime partner of the Genesis Group, and also the party with whom Anya Petrova's father, old Chairman Petrova, had always wanted to arrange a business marriage for her. I had heard of this Mark Harrison, a typical rich playboy, arrogant and domineering, who acted as if he owned the world all because of his family's money. He had always styled himself as Anya Petrova's fiancé and was pursuing her with dogged, shameless persistence. A large part of the reason Anya Petrova was in such a hurry to find me for a fake marriage was precisely to get rid of him. One day, Mark Harrison somehow found out Anya Petrova's apartment address and showed up right at her building, carrying a large, gaudy bouquet of blue enchantress roses. Anya Petrova and I had just gotten back from work and ran right into him at the main entrance. Anya. The moment Mark Harrison saw Anya Petrova, he immediately strutted over like a preening peacock. I heard you moved here, so I came specially to see you. Do you like them? I had them specially flown in from the Netherlands. They're the newest variety, blue lovered. When Anya Petrova saw him, her elegant brows knitted together instantly, a flash of undisguised disgust crossing her eyes. Mark, her voice was as cold as ice. I've told you many times, stop harassing me. Anya, how can you say that? Mark Harrison wore a wounded expression. Our families have been friends for generations. We're a match made in heaven. As he spoke, his gaze finally fell upon me, the background prop. He looked me up and down, his eyes filled with contempt and disdain. And this is? He's my... Anya Petrova seemed to hesitate. Say it. Say I'm your husband. Piss this greasy guy off. I screamed frantically in my heart. Anya Petrova seemed to hear my inner voice. She took a deep breath, reached out to take my arm, and lifted her head, declaring in a tone of ownership, "He is my husband, Alex." The smile on Mark Harrison's face instantly froze. What? He looked as if he had heard the world's greatest joke. Husband? Anya, don't joke with me. Him. He pointed at me with an extremely insulting look. A chauffeur who drives for you. Or a new bodyguard. Anya, when did your taste get so bad? Damn it, you're the chauffeur. Your whole family are chauffeurs. You look all prim and proper, but why do you have such a punchable mouth? If it weren't for my wife's sake, I'd make you see why flowers are so red today. I had already cursed his entire family tree in my mind, but my face remained calm. Anya Petrovna sensed my fury. The hand holding my arm unconsciously tightened. Mark, her voice grew even colder. Please be more respectful when you speak. He's my legal husband. We've already registered our marriage. Registered? Mark Harrison's expression changed completely. Impossible. Uncle Petrova would never agree to you marrying such a good-for-nothing pauper. My own marriage doesn't require anyone's approval, Anya Petrova said coldly. Now please leave this place immediately, otherwise I'm calling security. Mark Harrison looked at us clinging tightly to each other, then at Anya Petrova's resolute expression, and knew she wasn't joking. His face turned pale, then green, looking utterly awful. Finally, he slammed the bouquet of priceless blue enchantress roses violently onto the ground. Fine, Anya. You win. He pointed at me and said through gritted teeth, I'd like to see what this pretty boy can bring you. We'll see. With that, he furiously got into his flashy Maserati, stepped on the gas, and sped away. Looking at the mess of blue petals on the ground, I felt a secret thrill. Brilliant, wifey. That was a perfect takedown. I just love this side of you that looks down on everyone. So cool. Anya Petrova seemed to have been praised by my inner voice again and got a little embarrassed. She let go of my arm, her pretty face slightly flushed, and whispered, Let's go upstairs. Seeing this rare, slightly shy look of hers, my mood for some reason became exceptionally good. I even felt that the arrival of this rival, Mark Harrison, was rather timely. At the very least, he let me for the first time rightfully hear her announce to the whole world, I am her husband. Mark Harrison's appearance was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, completely shattering the respectfully icy peace between Anya Petrova and me. He didn't give up because of his defeat last time. On the contrary, he intensified his efforts. He began to appear frequently at the Genesis Group under the pretext of business cooperation. One day he sent a truckload of roses, the next a limited edition Hermes bag, and the day after he booked an entire Michelin-starred restaurant to treat all the company's senior executives, claiming it was to show appreciation for everyone's hard work. In reality, his intentions were as clear as day. Gossip also began to run rampant in the company. Everyone knew that the young master of the Sterling Group was madly pursuing their Ice Queen CEO, and I, Alex, the CEO's husband in name only, had become a complete joke. Freeloader, pretty boy, human shield, all sorts of nasty labels were stuck on me. I for one didn't much care. The mouths were on other people, they could say whatever they wanted. It's not like I'd lose a piece of flesh over it. But Anya Petrova, it seemed, cared more than I did. Once in the break room, I overheard two female colleagues gossiping about me. Hey, what do you think that Alex's background is? How could CEO Petrova fall for him? Who knows? She probably just fell for his face. But what's the use of being handsome? He's just a kept man. Look at Mr. Harrison now. He's a real catch, handsome and rich. Exactly. If it were me, I'd definitely choose Mr. Harrison. I don't know what Miss Petrova was thinking. Just as I was about to turn and leave, I saw Anya Petrova. I don't know when she got in there, but she was standing gracefully at the entrance to the break room. Her stunningly beautiful face was veiled in a frost so cold it could give you frostbite. The two gossiping female colleagues saw her, and the color drained from their faces in an instant. Ms. Petrova, you too. Anya Petrova's voice was as cold as a Siberian front. Starting Monday, don't bother coming into work. With that, she turned and left without a backward glance. The two female colleagues collapsed to the floor on the spot. But as for me, watching her resolute back, a warmth surged through my heart. I knew she was defending me, although she was probably just defending her own dignity as the CEO, but it still felt pretty good. The real confrontation happened a week later at a business cocktail party. The party was jointly hosted by several of the city's leading enterprises. Both the Genesis Group and the Sterling Group were on the guest list. As the CEO, Anya Petrova naturally had to attend, and I, as her legal husband, was ordered by her to accompany her. At the party, Mark Harrison stuck to Anya Petrova like a fly, fawning all over her and completely ignoring my existence as the rightful husband. Anya, come, let me introduce you. This is Chairman Davis of the Stellar Group. Anya, try this, an 82 law fight. I had it opened especially for you. Anya. I stood alone in a corner, bored out of my mind, holding a glass of champagne and watching him perform. This guy is a real piece of work. Does he really think he can win over Anya Petrova with these cheap tricks? So naive. A woman like Anya Petrova is a classic case of being attracted to power. Only by completely crushing her in business and ability, making her look up to you, do you have a chance of conquering her. Someone like Mark Harrison, a good for-nothing idiot with nothing but some stinking money, she wouldn't even give him the time of day. Just as I was mentally roasting him, Mark Harrison finally turned his attention to me. He walked up to me, holding his wine glass, a fake smile on his face. Alex, isn't it? He looked down on me condescendingly. Drinking all alone in the corner? What is it? I asked nonchalantly. Nothing major. He swirled the red wine in his glass and said in a show-off tone, just wanted to have a chat. I heard you're just an ordinary employee at the Genesis Group. So what if I am? Oh, nothing. He smiled, his grin full of superiority. I just wanted to give you a piece of advice. The most important thing for a person is to know their place. Don't touch things that don't belong to you, otherwise it's easy to get hurt. Like, for example, Anya. She is not someone a person like you can have. After speaking, he prepared to turn away to savor the sight of my suppressed anger and humiliation. But he was disappointed. There was no expression on my face. I just looked at him as if I were watching a clown playing to the crowd. Just then, Anya Petrova walked over. She linked her arm through mine and gave Mark Harrison a cold, professional smile. Mr. Harrison, she said, you seem to have misunderstood something. My husband is not an ordinary employee. She paused. Then in front of everyone, she said something that shocked the entire room. The Genesis Group's latest and most important strategic transformation plan, the AI initiative, is being led entirely by him. In a sense, he holds the future of the Genesis Group in his hands. Everyone stared at me as if they'd seen a ghost. An ordinary, low-level employee in charge of leading the strategic transformation of a company worth tens of billions? This was simply unbelievable. Even I was dumbfounded. You gotta be kidding me, wifey. Isn't this bluff a little too big? The AI strategy? I don't even know how many signs are in AI. You're throwing me on the fire. I was wailing internally, but Anya Petrova, still holding my arm, remained perfectly composed, as if she were stating a simple, ordinary fact. Mark Harrison's expression, on the other hand, was a sight to behold. He looked at me, then at Anya Petrova, his eyes filled with disbelief. Anya, you're not kidding, are you? I never kid. Anya Petrova's voice was unequivocal, especially not on strategic matters concerning the company's future. Alex has a talent and vision in the fields of artificial intelligence and future technology that far surpasses the ordinary person. He's just low-key and doesn't like to show off. As she spoke, she turned to look at me with what could only be described as a loving gaze. Right, honey? Seeing the undeniable command in her eyes, I could only brace myself and nod. Yeah, my ass. I haven't even figured out Python yet. You want me to lead an AI project? You might as well ask me to fly a fighter jet. It's over. I've really overdone the bluff this time. Why? Go back to the company tomorrow. I'll be a laughingstock for the entire office. But to my surprise, it seems Anya Petrova wasn't just bluffing. She looked at Mark Harrison and changed the subject. Speaking of which, it seems CEO Harrison's Sterling Group has also been seeking a transformation recently. I heard you're currently bidding on a major smart city project. Mark Harrison was taken aback for a moment, then puffed out his chest and said proudly, That's right. We are determined to win this project. Is that so? Anya Petrova smiled faintly, a barely perceptible edge to her smile. What a coincidence. Our Genesis is also very interested in this project, and she paused, enunciating each word. We are also determined to win. The next half hour turned into a business debate between Anya Petrova and Mark Harrison over the Smart City project, and I was completely relegated to a background prop. But I could tell that Mark Harrison was at a complete disadvantage. His understanding of the project was limited to shallow, superficial concepts. Anya Petrova, however, could speak with logic and insight on everything from macro policies to technical details and business models. Especially when the debate reached the most critical technical core, Mark Harrison was questioned until he was speechless, his face flushed red. And that's when Anya Petrova would casually turn and ask me a question. Honey, regarding the algorithm architecture for this urban neural network. That decentralized edge computing model you mentioned to me last time sounded quite interesting. Why don't you briefly explain it to everyone? Me? What decentralized? What edge computing? The only thing I mentioned to you last time was which spicy hot pot place we should go to for dinner. My mind was in utter chaos. But miraculously, whenever Anya Petrova asked me one of these professional questions, it was as if a chip had been implanted in my brain. Extremely professional insights and answers would suddenly pop into my head. And so, in everyone's eyes, the scene became this. Alex, this hidden strategic mastermind, was a man of few words. The entire time, only occasionally, under my wife Anya Petrova's guidance, would I nonchalantly toss out a gem or two, and every gem would precisely strike a blind spot in Mark Harrison's knowledge, leaving him speechless and utterly humiliated. By the time the cocktail party ended, Mark Harrison had all but fled in disarray, and I, amidst gazes of awe, curiosity, and envy, left the venue on Anya Petrova's arm, basking in glory. It wasn't until we were in the car that I finally couldn't hold back anymore. CEO Petrova, what's going on? When did I ever tell you about those things? Anya Petrova looked at me, her beautiful phoenix eyes twinkling with a sly, star-like glint. You didn't? She asked in return. Are you sure you didn't think about them in your head? I froze. I carefully thought back. It seemed I really had complained about it internally just last week. After reading an industry analysis report on smart cities, I did indeed complain to myself that all the current solutions were too dependent on central servers and not intelligent at all. It would be better to make them decentralized. Could it be? Not only could she hear my internal complaints, but she could also remember all those immature, wild ideas I had, organize them into a complete, coherent business logic. My God, this woman wasn't just a mind reader. She was a super AI herself, wasn't she? After that cocktail party, my status at the company underwent a complete 180-degree transformation. No one dared to gossip behind my back anymore, calling me a freeloader. The way they looked at me changed from disdain to reverence. They all thought I was a hidden master. And Anya Petrova, she was a woman of her word. She really did establish an A-plus strategic project team and appointed me as its head. In name only, of course. In reality, she was still the one making all the decisions. My role, on the other hand, was to provide her with a constant stream of inspiration. Our mode of cooperation became exceptionally peculiar. During the day, in project team meetings, my job was to sit there staring into space, lost in thought, my mind wandering. This direction is wrong. The underlying algorithm is flawed. We should incorporate a deep reinforcement learning model. The user experience is terrible. Is this UI from the last century? It needs to be changed. This feature is unnecessary, a complete waste of resources. Exit. And Anya Petrova's job was to accurately capture these bullet comments from my mind, then translate them into clear directives to be assigned to the team. Between the two of us, a kind of highly efficient, unspoken understanding formed, one that outsiders could never comprehend. The project also progressed at unprecedented speed, and our husband-and-wife relationship also became more and more true to its name. At least that's how it appeared to outsiders. Anya Petrova would command me to accompany her to various business functions. She would link her arm through mine quite naturally in public. Once, when we were back at the Petrova family home for dinner, faced with her father's pressure to have children, she even told him without batting an eye, "Dad, we have a plan for that." At that moment, I was sipping soup and nearly spit it all out. A plan? What plan? How come I don't know about it? We haven't even held hands. This woman, she lies without even blinking. I felt my arm being pinched hard once again. Only we knew that we still slept in separate rooms. We were still the most familiar of strangers. I thought days like this would go on forever until the accident happened. That day, Anya Petrova had to go to a neighboring city for an important government bidding conference. She originally planned to go by herself, but for some reason, I felt a strange sense of unease. Is it safe for her to go so far alone? Maybe I should go with her. If anything happens on the road, at least I'd be there to help. So I found an excuse, claiming that the project had needed to understand the bidding details, and got into her car. The car was driving on the highway. Anya Petrova was resting with her eyes closed. Looking at her sleeping face, which seemed a little weary in the sunlight. My mind couldn't help but start its commentary again. What a workaholic. She must have stayed up late reading documents again last night. The circles under her eyes are a little dark. She really doesn't know how to take care of herself. After this bidding conference is over, I have to make her rest for a few days. Maybe we could go to a hot spring or take a walk by the sea. Just as my mind was wandering, suddenly disaster struck. A huge, out-of-control container truck, without any warning, came hurtling toward our car from the side ramp like a mad beast. It was too fast. There was no time to dodge. Watch out. I let out a subconscious roar, and then, without a second thought, I threw myself over and shielded Anya Petrova tightly beneath me. Bang! An earth-shattering bang accompanied by a violent impact. I felt as if my body had been viciously struck by a 10,000-pound sledgehammer. Excruciating pain instantly engulfed my entire body. In the last second before my consciousness faded to black, I had only one thought. Thank God I came along. She should be all right, right? I didn't know how long I had been unconscious when I regained consciousness. The first thing I smelled was the unique scent of disinfectant and hospital. I struggled to open my eyes, and the first thing that met them was the snow-white ceiling. I tried to move my fingers. My whole body felt like it had been torn apart, aching with excruciating pain, especially my back and head. You're awake. A voice choked with tears but filled with immense relief sounded by my ear. I turned my head and saw Anya Petrova. She was sitting by my hospital bed, her face pale, her eyes red and swollen, with a few faint scratches on her cheeks. She was holding my hand tightly, and those phoenix eyes, usually so cold and sharp, were now filled with lingering fear, worry, and a deep, overwhelming heartache. How are you feeling? Does anything hurt? Doctor, she cried out incoherently. Soon, doctors and nurses rushed in and began a series of examinations on me. The patient's life is no longer in danger, the doctor finally said to Anya Petrova. It's mainly a concussion and soft tissue contusions on his back. He'll need a period of rest to recover. Hearing this, Anya Petrova finally seemed to let out a sigh of relief, her entire body relaxing. After the doctor and nurse left, it was just the two of us in the hospital room again. We both spoke at the same time, and then stopped at the same time. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. Ultimately, I was the one to laugh first, breaking the silence. Are you all right? My voice was a bit hoarse from the sharp pain in my head. My words were like a switch. In an instant, Anya Petrova's tears began to fall. Her tears, like pearls from a broken string, rolled down her cheeks without warning. She didn't cry out loud, just bit her lip hard, but her shoulders were trembling violently. It was the first time in my life I had ever seen her cry. Seeing this always aloof, all-powerful ice queen crying like a helpless child, my heart twisted painfully, as if something had viciously clenched it. Don't cry. When you cry, my heart breaks. It's just a few injuries. I'm a man. I'm tough. I'll be fine after a few days of rest. As long as you're okay, that's all that matters. I thought anxiously, wanting to comfort her, but the movement pulled at my wounds and the pain left me speechless. But Anya Petrova, the moment she heard my inner thoughts, began to cry even harder. She threw herself at my bedside, burying her face in my hand. Her scalding tears soaked the back of my hand. I'm sorry, she sobbed, repeating those two words over and over. It's my fault, it's all my fault. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have gotten hurt. Watching her like this, I felt a mix of heartache and amusement. Silly girl, how could this be your fault? The truck lost control on its own. Besides, I'm your husband. Isn't it my duty to protect you? I had just finished the thought when Anya Petrova suddenly lifted her head, looking at me with teary eyes. She responded word by word. It's not your duty. We're just in a fake marriage. You have no obligation to go this far for me. I froze. Gee, she would respond to my thoughts? Could it be? Just as I was reeling in shock and suspicion, Anya Petrova seemed to realize something as well. The sorrow on her face instantly froze. In its place was boundless panic. She was incoherent, wanting to explain but not knowing how to begin. And as I watched her, flustered, trying to cover it up but failing miserably, an absurd suspicion that had been circling in my mind for a long time was finally confirmed. She could really hear the voice in my head. From the first day we lived together, All my complaints, all my silent criticisms, all my wild thoughts, she had heard every single one, crystal clear. An indescribable, complex emotion instantly swept over my entire body. There was shock, absurdity, a feeling of being caught between laughter and tears. But more than that, there was a sense of shame and anger at having all my secrets spied upon. I felt like a clown stripped naked and thrown onto the center of a stage, and she was the sole audience member in the know. She was enjoying the show of all my smugness and self-perceived cleverness. My expression slowly darkened. So, I looked at her, my voice as cold as ice. You've known everything from the very beginning, haven't you? Anya Petrova's face turned deathly pale in an instant. She knew she had been exposed. She also knew that the fragile, false peace between us had in that moment been completely shattered. I didn't do it on purpose. After a long, suffocating silence, Anya Petrova finally, with difficulty, spoke. Her voice carried a trace of trembling and helplessness. I don't know why either. From the day we got our marriage license, I've been able to hear the voice in your head. It's very clear, like a radio I can't turn off. She tried to explain, but to me at that moment, her explanation sounded so pale and feeble. So you've just been laughing at me this whole time, is that it? My voice was still icy. Watching me act like a fool in front of you, talking to myself, feeling so pleased with myself, you must have found it very amusing, didn't you? That's not it. She shook her head frantically. I wasn't. I never wanted to laugh at you. Then what was it? I stared her down. Was it the sense of accomplishment you got from having me completely under your control? Or did you just feel that I, this transparent person, made you feel very safe, very controllable? I returned her own words to her verbatim. Every word I spoke was like a knife stabbing viciously into her heart. Her face grew increasingly pale, her lips bitten until not a trace of color remained. She opened her mouth, only to find herself utterly unable to offer a defense, because in the beginning, she had indeed harbored such thoughts. She had felt that being able to control everything about Alex was a source of reassurance for her. But she didn't know when it started, when this control had quietly soured. She began to look forward to hearing his inner voice, to look forward to hearing those complaints of his that, while childish, were so real, to look forward to hearing his insincere yet genuine concern for her, to look forward to drawing a sliver of the warmth of a lived-in soul from his noisy, vibrant spirit, a warmth she had never possessed. But all of this she could not bring herself to say to me. And as for me, seeing her indefatigable, tacitly admitting expression, the last trace of warmth in my heart vanished. Understood. I closed my eyes and said wearily, CEO Petrova, let's end our partnership here. Once my injuries have healed, we'll go handle the divorce proceedings. Don't worry, I won't take a single cent of what was promised to me in the agreement. No, Anya Petrova cried out, her eyes filled with panic. Alex, you can't do this. Why can't I? I opened my eyes and looked at her coldly. Or do you want to continue listening to me, the clown, continue to perform for you? No, it's not like that. Then what is it like? My question left her speechless. In the end, she could only weep, shaking her head nonstop. For the next few days, our relationship dropped to a freezing point. Anya Petrova still came to the hospital every day to take care of me, pouring me tea and water, peeling fruit, and making soup. But there was no longer any communication between us. I no longer thought about anything. I had completely sealed off my heart, turning it into an impenetrable fortress. And Anya Petrova could no longer hear that familiar commentary channel. Her world returned to its former quietness, but this quietness made her feel an unprecedented emptiness and panic. She discovered that she had already grown accustomed to that noisy voice, accustomed to secretly competing with him when he complained about her work, accustomed to blushing in secret when he praised her for being beautiful, accustomed to that trace of sweetness that bloomed in her heart when he worried about her health. Without his inner voice, her world seemed to have lost all its color. A week later, I was discharged from the hospital. I didn't return to that luxurious apartment, but instead went back to my own small yet safe rented room. I sent her a message. I'll have my lawyer draft the divorce agreement as soon as possible. I'll notify you when it's ready. After sending it, I turned off my phone. I needed time to cool down, to think, to lick my wounds. I had thought that Anya Petrova would let me go. After all, our beginning was just a transaction. Now that the transaction was ending early, for someone like her who valued efficiency in all things, it should have been a good thing. But I never expected it. The next evening, there was a knock on the door of my rented room. I opened the door to see a travel-worn Anya Petrova with red-rimmed eyes. She was holding a thermos flask. You? I froze. I. She looked at me, her eyes filled with grievance and unease, like a big cat abandoned by its owner. I made you some congee. She raised the thermos in her hand and said in a small voice. Looking at Anya Petrova standing at the door of my shabby rented room, so completely out of place with her surroundings, I was momentarily at a loss for words. She was wearing an expensive Chanel suit, Jimmy Choo heels on her feet, yet in her hands she held a very homey-looking thermos. The scene was utterly incongruous and yet strangely comical. How did she find this place? What is she here for? A show of force or an apology? What's that in her hand? Congee? She can make congee? What a joke. She probably doesn't even know what's in her own fridge, right? My mind was in a frenzy of roasting her. But then I saw Anya Petrova's body tremble almost imperceptibly. The rims of her eyes grew even redder. It was only then that it hit me. She could still hear my inner voice, and I just now had subconsciously exposed myself again. My expression instantly turned cold again. What are you doing here? Anya Petrova bit her lip, nudging the thermal container in her hands forward. I was worried you hadn't eaten. No need for President Petrova to worry. I turned sideways, intending to close the door, but she grew anxious, quickly using her hand to block the door. Alex, she called my name, her voice tinged with a sob. Don't be like this. Can we just talk properly? We have nothing to talk about. Yes, we do, she said stubbornly. At least let me come in and finish what I have to say. I looked at her pitiful, tear-streaked face. If this were before, I probably would have softened long ago, but now I only found it ironic. She's acting again, truly befitting a president. Her acting skills are superb. My inner thoughts, like a sharp blade, stabbed viciously at her. Her face in an instant turned deathly pale. The hand holding the door also dropped limply. I took the chance to close the door, but she did something I never expected. She actually used her foot to block the gap in the door. She was wearing high heels. That must have hurt a lot. I saw her brows furrow tightly in pain, but she didn't make a sound, just stubbornly preventing the door from closing. Alex. She looked up, tears finally sliding down her cheeks. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have hidden things from you. Shouldn't have treated you like a joke. But I truly meant you no harm. At first I just thought this ability was convenient, but later I really wasn't laughing at you. She seemed to want to say something, but didn't know how to express it. In the end, she could only say in the most clumsy way, please don't be angry with me anymore, okay? Her aggrieved expression, like a primary school student who's done wrong and is begging for forgiveness, caused my heart, that fortress built of ice walls, to quietly crack open. I sighed. In the end, I still couldn't harden my heart. Come in. I opened the door. She limped inside, looking at my rented room of just over 10 square meters, piled high with clutter. A trace of surprise flashed in her eyes. Is this his real life? So different from my cold, palace-like show home. This place is filled with the breath of life. Sit. I pointed to the only chair in the room. She sat down, carefully placing the thermal container on the table. I spent all afternoon learning from Sister Lee to make this. She opened the container, and an aroma immediately filled the air. It was seafood congee, exactly the same as the one I had made for her that night. My heart was once again gently touched. I didn't speak, just picked up the spoon and silently took a sip. The taste was hard to describe. It was either too salty or too bland, and it had a faint burnt taste. My God, this cooking is truly out of this world. How did Sister Lee teach her? Or does she just have zero talent for cooking? Even a dog wouldn't eat this congee, would it? Anya Petrova's face, in a flash, turned completely red. She nervously fidgeted with the hem of her clothes, like a student awaiting a teacher's criticism. Is it awful? Looking at her nervous yet expectant expression, for some reason, I suddenly found it a little amusing. I suppressed all my internal complaints. Then I looked up and gave her a long unseen smile. No, I said. It's very good. After speaking, right in front of her, I drank the entire bowl of burnt-tasting congee until it was empty. That bowl of burnt-tasting seafood congee, like a miracle cure, healed the seemingly insurmountable rift between us. I didn't mention divorce again, and Anya Petrova didn't mention moving back again. But like a little cat that had found its way home, she would show up on time in my cramped rented room every day after work. She would bring the freshest ingredients bought from a high-end supermarket. Then in my pitifully small kitchen, she would clumsily follow tutorials on a food app to make me a dinner of sometimes good, sometimes bad quality. I in turn would sit nearby, watching her flustered state while carrying out a merciless real-time commentary in my mind. My heavens, can't you even tell the difference between sugar and salt? Is this dish meant to kill me with salt? Anya Petrova's hand, adding the seasoning, would suddenly tremble. Do you really have to use that much force just to chop some vegetables? You're going to shatter the cutting board. Anya Petrova would immediately ease up, her movements becoming gentle and cautious. Forget it, seeing how hard she's trying. Even if she serves up a pile of crap, I'll just pinch my nose and eat it. The corners of Anya Petrova's mouth would secretly lift into a smug little smile. Our dynamic grew stranger and stranger, and also more harmonious. We were no longer that fake couple living under a contract. We were more like a young couple passionately in love, constantly learning to adapt to one another. Finally, one weekend afternoon, after Anya Petrova had once again nearly set the kitchen on fire, she blushing issued me an ultimatum. Alex, next week you must move back to Serenity Heights. Why? I feigned confusion. Because, she stammered for a long while, unable to give a clear reason. I looked at her and smiled. Because you miss me? Her face instantly turned as red as a ripe apple. She stomped her foot, embarrassed and annoyed. I stood up, walked over to her, and for the first time, I proactively reached out and pulled her into my arms. Her body stiffened for a moment but quickly softened, yielding as she leaned against my chest. Anya Petrova, I said softly in her ear, holding her. I think our contract has already expired. It's time to renew it, but this time with a new version. Anya Petrova seemed to understand the subtext of my thoughts. She buried her face in my chest and gave a muffled mm. I looked down at her reddened earlobes, my heart filled with a soft tenderness, and I finally said the words I'd always wanted to say but never dared. Anya Petrova, I like you. I felt the body in my arms tremble slightly. Then, in a voice softer than a mosquito's buzz, I heard her reply, I've known for a while now. I knew she was talking about my inner voice. I smiled. I cupped her face, looking into her phoenix eyes, which shimmered with a mixture of shyness and joy. Then I lowered my head and kissed her. From now on, my inner voice will be my words of love, meant for you and you alone. And against her lips, I heard her inner voice, also meant for me and me alone, mm. Outside the window, the sun was bright and the breeze was gentle. Our real story was only just beginning.